In my previous video, I've covered one of Rockstar's forgotten masterpieces, a game that created a lot of memories for both me and a lot of other people. In this video, I will be covering a game that brought the 80s to a generation that never had a chance to experience them firsthand. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. From the magic powder, the fast cars, and neon-soaked streets, this game managed to perfectly capture and basically freeze an entire time frame for future generations to enjoy. Released in October of 2002 for the PS2, only a year after Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City was an instant hit amongst gamers, generating a lot of positive reviews, critical acclaim, and becoming the best-selling video game of 2002. To date, Vice City has managed to sell over 17.5 million copies and is considered one of the greatest video games ever made. Before diving deeper into the game and covering the story, I want to say that this game was one of my first GTA titles. And I still remember how my dad took me to this video game shop where you could rent out the console for like an hour and play any game of your choosing. And of course, me, as the lunatic kid that I was, I played Vice City. I remember it was 2003 and I just started school for the first time in my life, and here I was sitting in front of a TV, controlling Ray Liotta and just absolutely chilling while the amazing 80s music played in the background. I never really did many missions and I mostly just roamed around, never really completing much of the game until I was like 14 or 15. But it was that moment that changed everything for me, as I fell in love with video games. Okay. Enough of this personal shit. On to the story. It's 1986 and Tommy Vercetti has just been released from prison after serving 15 years for murder of 11 people. Sonny Forelli sends him down to Vice City hoping to expand the Liberty operation of the Forellis down south. Upon arriving in Vice, Tommy is met by Ken Rosenberg, who takes him to a deal that Sonny has set up. And of course, the deal is an absolute bust, as most of the people involved in the deal end up dying, with Tommy losing both the cash and the goods. After this, Tommy drives to his hotel room and has Sonny lash out at him for losing his money and goods. I never really noticed this when I played the game before, but with the money and the goods on the table here in this shot, is it implied that Sonny had this whole thing set up? Never mind. Moving on. After this incident that kickstarts the story, the player is free to roam the streets of Vice City, or at least one island, as the other one is kinda locked out due to severe weather conditions. From this point, Tommy starts his mission of finding those responsible for the ambush and ends up meeting a fair bit of funky characters along the way. Now, the story is not really that deep and is mostly a mashup of different shows and movies from the 80s, but I'll summarize it very quickly here. Tommy looks for the ones who ambushed him, then he meets Colonel Cortez, does missions for him, meets Lance Vance and Ken Paul, who direct him towards Ricardo Diaz. He meets Avery Carrington, who gives him a few missions, etc. and etc. Like, repeat until him and Lance kill Ricardo Diaz, take over his mansion, start expanding their business to be more diverse, all the way until he ends up getting betrayed by Lance Vance for not treating him like an equal, and then Sonny and Lance storm Tommy's mansion, and Tommy is forced to take out both of them, leaving him and Ken Rosenberg to run Vice City. The end. But even though the story itself might be a little bit cliche and lacking any true depth to make it a full-on masterpiece, the characters that we end up meeting in this game are some of the most memorable that you have ever seen. Like from Phil Cassidy, Ken Paul, Ken Rosenberg, Avery Carrington, Steve Scott, the band Love Fist. The game was an experience that really made you feel like you were part of something, like you actually contributed to this 3D world. And because of that, I think the story and even kind of abrupt ending can get a pass. Now, before I cover everything else, I want to say that I absolutely fucking hate some of the missions in this game. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the game. I played the shit out of this game, but you can't tell me that the devil himself didn't make some of these missions. Especially the missions you have to do with the RC fucking vehicles. Demolition Man was one of the hardest missions for me when I was a kid, and I was genuinely scared that it would be too much this time around as well. Thankfully, I did it first try now. But as a kid, this thing frustrated me so much I genuinely never wanted to play the game after getting to this mission. And please don't get me started on the missions where you have to follow Candy Sucks and get a 5-star wanted level for taking photos of her and some random guy named Martha. Or the one for Phil Cassidy where you have to get some weapons from some moving trucks while being chased by random scooters who have the best aim in the entire 3D universe. Man, it's frustrating as hell. Especially failing a mission and losing all of your weapons. But thankfully, I realized very quickly to save after every single encounter that ends in success. That way, I managed to save myself from the inevitable frustration brought upon us by the Rockstar gods.
I'd like to see him suffer.
With that said, I can say that I pretty much enjoyed 90% of the missions. A lot of them are well done and easy to do, and if you say regularly, I don't think you should have any problems with completing them and not losing all your money in the process. And trust me, you need the money, especially once you come to the point where you need to buy the businesses to advance the story, as those don't come cheap. And if you're not careful, you're basically D-O-N-E fucked.
D-O-N-E fucked!
I was a bit stupid, so I ended up buying the businesses in reverse, but you should always look to buy either the Sunshine Autos first or the Malibu Club, as those two have specific things that can help you gather a larger amount of money extremely fast. I mean, the Sunshine Auto Shop at least does, while the Malibu Club just kinda gives you 10k per day and 50k for completing the asset missions, which result in a bank robbery, by the way, and probably the best mission in the game. Now, the Sunshine Auto business only gives you 1.5k per day, but you have the option to start races, and this is where you can make the best amount of money, as you can repeat the endurance race for like half an hour and you will be at 200k, giving you enough to buy up all the remaining businesses. The other businesses include the Cherry Popper, which is an ice cream factory that sells non-dairy goods, Kaufman Cabs, which is a taxi company, Printworks, which of course prints counterfeit cash, the Pole Position, a strip club business where you basically have to spend $700 to complete the asset mission and have it start making money for you. No one ever told me that. Ever. And of course, the film studio, which is just an adult film studio shooting abstract and weird movies. I don't know. All of these assets include asset missions which you will have to complete before the businesses can start generating regular income. And also, you end up having the Vassetti mention generate regular income as well, up to 5,000 per day. Now, with the business aspect covered, I want to talk a bit about the side activities, and there is not really many here for you to do. Some of them include the standard taxi, paramedic, vigilante, and firefighter missions, along with your usual stunt jumps, rampages, and hidden packages. But despite there not being a lot you can do when it comes to the side activities, the game does have hidden things that you might easily miss with RC missions, arena missions, and even stunt missions that are hidden across the map. And of course, how can we forget the ability to rob stores, which I didn't even know was a thing until I played this game again earlier this week. With these points covered, I can't leave out the best aspects of this entire game. The amazing soundtrack. No matter your music taste, no matter what you think of certain genres, you can't deny that this game absolutely nailed the radio selection. There's a bit of everything for absolutely every single type of a person. You like rock? Well, here's V-Rock. You like metal? Here's some Slayer for you, sir. And not even mentioning the other amazing tracks and artists that this game's soundtrack includes. From Michael Jackson, Run DMC, all the way to Motley Crue, this soundtrack was one of the best out of any GTA game. I think maybe San Andreas comes close, as that game absolutely nails it in that aspect as well. But there is something about driving over at Washington Beach and listening to Michael Jackson and then just switching it over to a more intense metal option. It's just, I don't know, it's something words can't really describe. And how can I forget the fact that this game had one of the most star-studded casts out of all GTA games, with actors like Ray Liotta, Philip Michael Thomas, Danny Trejo, Burt Reynolds, Luis Guzman, Dennis Hopper, and Denny Dyer. all of them giving a special and unique feel to the characters they've played. I mean, you have to realize that for a game that came out in 2002 and was developed within a year, well, even less than that, the amount of work that's been put in by everyone involved is mind-boggling. And it's a true testament to how old Rockstar had passion that we only ever seen once since 2013 and the release of GTA 5. The cast did a fantastic job, and Rockstar really made something groundbreaking with Vice City. They found a formula that they would continue to use to this day, incorporating engaging storytelling, good and fleshed out characters, a detailed open world, and the freedom to play the game in any way you want. This game, on top of being the ultimate 80s experience, is a game that changed the landscape of gaming, sparking a lot of controversy while also creating a lot of buzz that would not fade out even 22 years after it was released. After all, Ray Liotta's Tommy Vercetti might be the reason a kid in the near future finds out about the Goodfellas, or they look up Lance Vance and see that the actor was part of Miami Vice. Overall, this piece of gaming history will be something that even 50 years from now, someone will look back to and reminisce about the good old days, their youth, the feelings that they had during the time they played this game, and it will bring a smile to their face. This game is just that good, and if you ask me, it's up there with the best of them. It's a game that was inspired by movies like Scarface, shows like Miami Vice, and even though it has a lot of references to those same shows and movies, it stands its own ground as a piece of art that many will look back to as their childhood game, the game that started it all. I could go on and talk about other stuff in here as well, but I don't want to really do a full deep dive and cover things that other folks on YouTube have already done. All I want to do is to tell you that you should play this game if you already haven't, of course. And if you have, then go back and play it again, especially if you are like me and are waiting for GTA 6. Is the game perfect? No. Does it have issues? Oh yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those issues sometimes make you feel miserable. For instance, in the mission The Race, when you have to beat Hillary to have him be your driver for the bank heist, you can do everything perfect, and right before the finish line, 2 random cop cars will spawn in on the bridge behind the Malibu Club and ram straight into you. If you aren't ready for it, you will fail. A lot. And the same can be said for a bunch of other missions I've ended up dying on. But in the end, the game just feels much better to beat once you've had these failures. So, is it worth playing? Hell yeah. It's a game that has a lot of soul, and even though controversy surrounds it, with actors being hard to work with, some even being total assholes, the game still ended up being one of the most amazing pieces of art that has been put out in a video game format. In the end, no one can deny that this game is an absolute masterpiece. A flawed masterpiece, but a masterpiece nonetheless. And the ultimate 80s gaming experience. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for staying this long. It's been a pleasure doing these, and I appreciate your support. I want to thank all of my 148 subscribers personally. You folks are just amazing, and I wouldn't be doing this without your support. Thank you. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Comment me your thoughts down below. Was Vice City the game that made you start playing the GTA series? Or did you start with something else? Let me know in the comments below. Stay silly, and I'll see you in the next one.